It's no secret that Invicta watches have a pretty bad reputation in the watch collecting community. Most people seem to disdain the brand for many reasons, but they also have their hardcore fan base as well. And in today's video, I'll try to see both sides of the coin to tell if the Invicta brand is worth your while. The first reason why Invicta gets such a bad rap is for their quality control. It seems to be hit or miss depending on who you ask. Some people will have 20 Invicta watches and all of them work fine, whereas you'll also hear a couple horror stories like this one, where people will buy 3 or 4 Invicta watches and almost all of them will break within a few months. And sometimes they'll even send them back for repair and they'll come back broken again. So just browse the internet, you'll find dozens of these horror stories. This also explains why most Invicta watches have 10 to 15% of bad reviews, so 2-star and below, on sites like Amazon. Compared to more reputable brands like Orient or Seiko, these will usually have around 5% of bad reviews. So Invicta has nearly triple the bad reviews as other brands. And when you dig a bit deeper, you find out that most of these bad reviews stem from quality control issues, like the watch came with a broken hand, a loose screw, an unfinished case, etc. So definitely one of their biggest problems. The second reason why people hate Invicta is for their sleazy marketing techniques, such as using overly inflated MSRPs. I know a few affordable watch brands do the same technique as well, but no one does it to the extent that Invicta does. For example, you can see here that they'll often put a $1,500 MSRP on a watch and then discount it 70 or 80% to sell it for $200 or $300. This is very bad for the company because it kind of makes us think that they think we're stupid enough to believe that we're actually buying a $1,500 watch and getting such a great bargain for it, when 99% of people are not falling for it at all. Yet another of their sleazy marketing techniques is the use of misleading names. A prime example is their Flame Fusion crystal, which they claim is a very resistant hybrid between mineral and sapphire crystals, when in reality it is a very basic mineral crystal with a thin layer of sapphire on top of it, which is basically useless. Or another example is their Tritnite lume, which is obviously named to resemble a tritium lume, which is used on very high-end watches. But of course, tritium is not used on Invicta watches and their lume is nowhere near as bright. So they'll use a few misleading names here and there to make you believe once again that you're buying something very high-end when you actually get some pretty basic specs. The fourth reason for Invicta's bad reputation is their customer service, which is awful. Case in point, their consumer affairs and Yelp reviews average 1.5 star, which is very bad. So there's a vocal crowd of people that are displeased with how they were treated. Common complaints include very slow response time from the brand, with sometimes no answers at all. And there's generally an uncooperative attitude of the staff members with the customers. Another common complaint is how they are unwilling to honor their warranty. Last but not least is their fake heritage. You guys from older generations watching this video might be a bit surprised to hear such bad things about Invicta, because it used to be a very well-respected brand. From the mid-1800s to the early 1990s, they made reputable Swiss watches of high quality. But in 1991, the company was bought out by outside interests and it took a very dicey turn. And nowadays, they mostly produce copycats, or what they would call homages of Rolexes, Omegas, etc. And they seem to have no integrity at all. As long as they're able to make money on the watch, they'll produce it. So you'll see a lot of SpongeBob SquarePants collabs or things like that, where the brand kind of lost all its respect. I think I've made it pretty clear as to why people hate the Invicta brand, but they still sell millions of watches, so there's certainly a reason why people buy them too. And I'll try to sum up the 3 main reasons why I think people buy Invicta watches. Number 1 is that They offer thousands of different models with hundreds of new models coming out every year. It can be quite nauseating to try and follow their new releases because there's so many of them. So if you search hard enough, you'll certainly find something to your liking. And they're also often a bit more distinctive than, let's say, a Seiko SNK 809, which is an outstanding watch, but everyone and their grandmother has one, so it's not distinctive at all. Whereas these Invicta watches are a bit more peculiar, so you'll see less people wearing them. And they also have a lot of collabs with Marvel, even with Shaquille O'Neal, so that definitely helps the brand sell more watches as well. Number 2 is that they are very affordable. You can buy Invicta watches for as low as 40 or 50 bucks, and even around the $100 price point, they have some pretty decent watches. Once again, you'll have to search a bit because not the majority of them are good, but every now and then you'll find a gem. And I think it's a great way for people to get into the watch collecting hobby without forking out too much cash. And once they know that they really like watch collecting, then they'll move on to more expensive and more reputable brands. So it's kind of a good thing for the community. Number 3, which is linked to number 2, is that they have some bang for the buck watches in their collection here and there. If you search hard enough, you'll find one with pretty good material quality and great finish for an affordable price. So if you're able to find a good one, you'll have a pretty good bang for the buck watch. The Invicta watch I would personally recommend is the Invicta 8926. This is undoubtedly the most popular in the watch collecting community. It is obviously a Rolex homage, or copycat if you will, but at around 80 bucks it offers amazing components like Seiko NH35 caliber with hand winding and hacking, 200 meters of water resistance with a screw-down crown, 120 click bezel, etc. And the finish is pretty good for this price point, so definitely the one I recommend the most. I've reviewed it here. If you are interested in that, you can click. And then the second Invicta watch I would recommend is the 1953. This one is an homage of the vintage Submariner, which a lot of people, including myself, think looks better than the modern Sub. And it has the same amazing specs as the 8926, which explains why it is so popular. You will not be able to find it brand new because it is sold out everywhere. So if you're interested, you'll have to look either at the gray market or the pre-owned market, and you'll probably pay a pretty big premium for it. There are also a few Invicta watches I recommend you avoid. For example, Invicta watches sold on cruise ships. This is one of Invicta's big market. They love to sell them on cruises, in hotels, etc. because people often don't have access to a good internet connection, so they won't be able to get a point of reference for the prices of these watches. So although they are heavily discounted, as Invicta would say, they are still around 50% to 100% more expensive than the same watch on Amazon, let's say. And people on cruises will often be in a good vacation mood, so they are more inclined to spend. Invicta is perfectly aware of that, and they take full advantage of it. Number 2, I would avoid any Invicta watches without reviews. As I said, they sell thousands of models, so most of them won't have reviews on Amazon or Joma Shop. Steer clear from those and stick to the well-known models like the 8926 because there's really no consistency with the parts they use. So one model like the 8926 might be amazing, but the other watch you're looking at might come from a totally different factory with lower grade materials. So stick to the known models and avoid anything that doesn't have a review. I think it's safe to say that the quality of Invicta watches will be up for debate for the next 100 years. I would like to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below to let me know, do you own a couple of their watches or do you avoid them like the plague? I'm interested in what you guys have to say. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys around next time.